This episode is powered by Poddex.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Go Talk podcast. This week we have a special guest on the show. He is currently a sophomore at the University of Massachusetts, Lowell. He is one of the founders of STEM for the Streets. He is a member of the National Society of Black Engineers. And in high school, he was a part of an organization called LearnServe, which we will talk about all those things during the interview. Today's guest on the show is Mr. Kevin Akers. As you heard in the intro, this episode is powered by Poddex. So we're going to bring Kevin in and we're going to get this show on the road.
Hey, what up, bro?
What's up, Kevin? How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling great. Just finished taking my last exam for the week, so I'm on the moon right now. I'm good.
That's dope. How's the quarantine been treating you? I know you're in Massachusetts and it's getting fall. Have you hit that weather yet?
Fall from the 4 inches of snow outside my window right now. Hope everybody the hoodie. It's a little cold up here. Quarantine's been all right. I made some new friends, so it's kind of being cool, like in a closed network. It's like it almost feels like, you know, the NBA had the bubble. It's kind of like a college bubble right now. So that's been kind of cool. So life has been all right. Can't complain.
That's amazing, bro. Before we get into the actual interview questions, I'm just gonna ask you a few questions from our sponsor, Poddex. Poddex are unique interview questions and episode starting prompts in the palm of your hand. So whether you are a new podcaster or existing broadcaster looking to grow your audience or get more engagement, you're going to want to check out poddex.com. Use code GTP2020 for 10% off your first order. So you don't have to sweat it too much. These aren't like any crazy questions or anything like that. So the first question is, what is your most unusual talent?
Most unusual talent is, so I broke both my ankles when I was a kid, and I can bring my ankles back 120 degrees in the opposite direction, not facing front, but facing backwards.
Wait, what? Wait, what?
Like I can't even, I don't know, I ain't got no shoes on, like not even gonna lie, so I can't do no presentation, but like your feet are like this, I can make one like.
Okay, so like you're walking forward, but you can make your feet face backward.
Exactly. That is my most unusual talent. I mean,
how have I known you this long and I didn't know that?
I mean, like, I knew in high school people used to be on me about my feet, but like I ain't never show nobody because I didn't want everybody. Yeah.
Okay. That's insane. Okay. Who would you most like to sit next to on a 10-hour flight and why?
Probably Barack Obama, and because Barack Obama on the right, Neil deGrasse Tyson on the left. Yeah. That way I could talk about space when I want to and talk about like the Black community, talk about where America is, how we can be better as a country, better as a people, how I can be better as a student, as a young man, get advice from both of them when it comes to career-related stuff and how to treat people properly. And hopefully they don't snore though, because that is
That's dope. Last question. It's a serious question. Very serious question. Do you count your steps?
Nah.
Nah. That makes one of. I count my steps sometimes, not all the time. I count my steps.
Try to get in my 10,000. Try to get in my 10,000 a day.
I got you. So again, thanks to Poddex for those interesting icebreaking questions. Now we're going to start with the interview. You are, as I mentioned in the interview, Kevin is a part of the National Society of Black Engineers. He started STEM for the Streets. He's been doing STEM for as long as I've known him. So I guess the best place to start would just be, when did your passion for STEM begin, and what fueled that passion?
So my passion for STEM, I probably got it first from my father, because my dad has done electrical engineering since my dad's been my dad. And he's not like super, he didn't go to college or stuff like that, but like he was just really good with his hands. All my life, my dad's been the guy where everybody needed something fixed, he would go to Patrick, and that'd be my dad. And I would come along with him, carry the tools, and help him fix anything. Everything from outlets to drywall to plumbing to dealing with like more minute details like wiring an entire house and stuff like that. Like that's probably where I got my first foot in the door with STEM, but there's a specific memory. So in DC, we have the National Air and Space Museum, and there's this room where it's a globe that's a projector. That's like, it's like a movie, but you look up instead of looking.
Yeah, I know what you're talking
And Neil deGrasse Tyson had a documentary on dark matter during that time when I went with my mom as a kid. And that was the moment. That's the moment where I knew like space is gonna be me. That's where I'm gonna go. Like I saw the moon and I'm like, that's where I want to be. So that's kind of where I got my roots in STEM.
So when like I said, you founded STEM for the Streets. You got one of those DCPS to college shout outs on the DCPS Instagram page senior year when you were graduating. What is STEM for the Streets, and how did it begin? What was your motivation behind starting STEM for the Streets?
So first, before we talk about what STEM for the Streets is, let's talk about why it is. So I grew up in Deanwood in Northeast Washington, D.C., so not the worst neighborhood, but not the best neighborhood, I guess you could say. And there I met my best friend Rashard now, and my other best friend, I'm going to just leave that open as D. And there we went to middle school, elementary school in Southeast Washington, D.C., and then when we were getting ready to go to high school, D got caught up with the wrong crowd and he brought a knife to school. He didn't even bring it. Somebody else brought it and gave it to him. Then everything else went downhill. Once he got expelled, started hanging out with the wrong crowd, started getting involved in stuff that he had never been involved in. The three of us, we always were so clean. And then all of a sudden we weren't. And it was hard when my parents told me I couldn't be friends with him. Like when you're a kid, all you want to do is make friends.
Yeah,
and when your parents tell you can't make friends with somebody that has been with you, it was hard. And growing up, I found that what kept me on the path that I wanted to be on, that I needed to be on, was my mom would always take me to these programs that would get my hands dirty with what I had interest in. Like, we would go to the University of Maryland and go to Physics is Fun. The average attendance was 10 kids, but 10 kids would go there and professors would just talk about physics and do a bunch of experiments for hours and just sit there and talk about it. And like programs like that, there's another program at Morgan State University where it was about dissections and working with the human anatomy and learning about that. And it was free for high school students. But when I went there, I was the only student of color there. Why?
Yeah.
And finally, I joined this awesome program in Southeast called the Southeast Tennis Learning Center, SCTLC Family for Life. It is a great program where I learned about mentorship. They teach you tennis, but they also help you with your homework, teach you about Black history. I learned the value of having people around you that look like you, that are successful. I met a woman there named Dr. West, who's an amazing, she has her PhD, she's a principal, has her own school, but she still spends the time every day working at the tennis center to help the students that love her and the students that she loves. That's where I learned about mentorship. And what STEM for the Streets is it takes the problem where there are lots and lots of youth, specifically youth of color, whose potential is being robbed of them because of a situation that they were put into since birth. Like, how do I put this? There's no reason why the number of youth that are in jail should be in jail.
Yeah.
I think that students, if they had mentors from a younger age, they wouldn't have to deal with they would have more support. At the end of the day, that's what everybody really needs. And what STEM for the Streets does is a nonprofit organization based off of mentoring minority students with STEM. And what we do is we'll go to middle schools and elementary schools and we'll bring in STEM professionals of color, such as Dr. Clayton Lawrence, who is a part of the LEAP Foundation. And we'll talk a little bit more about the LEAP Foundation. That's another mentorship program I've been a part of. And he would come in and do hands-on activities with the students. We do hands-on science experiments. engaging lesson plans, and then we would sit down and kind of have like a family dinner. And the family dinner was my favorite part just because we got to eat. And I found when you break bread with people, there's nothing that's off the table. And really listening to younger children, it reminds you to look at the world like a kid. Looking at the world as a kid, it makes you learn the quickest. And really getting to know them was an amazing experience. So that's STEM for the Streets. So far, we've impacted over 200 students, worked with 3 schools, raised over $2,500. We have also, represented the United States at CONCALSA. CONCALSA is a international convention of social projects across the Americas, and we were presenting at the UNICEF room inside of the UN office in Santiago, Chile, and that was an amazing experience getting to know what social projects look like in Latin America, all across of Central America. And now we're getting ready to start up our next virtual sessions. We're switching it up, and we're trying to accommodate for COVID-19 and still help our students. And that's STEM for the Streets.
You touched on this a little bit with just the importance of mentorship, specifically in our community. What do you think? Like, if you could pick one thing, what do you think the one reason is as to why mentorship is so important in our community specifically?
Connection. The value of your network is the value you have. If you haven't been able to engage with other people that are getting to where you want to be, how do you expect to get there? You can't look at, if a child sees a STEM professional of color, right? They're at point A, the STEM professional of color has already made it. They're at point C. Yeah. That you have no idea how to get there. The connection of having a mentor that will help you get there, that's how you get there. That's how students go from kind of, I don't want to say like, it's like they have their eyes open to opportunities that they didn't even know existed. I didn't know NSBE existed until I got to high school. They have a whole middle school program. Like, I would have been in there. Like, if it hadn't been for the mentors that I know now and the mentor that I am to the people, to the students that STEM for the Streets, like, how do we progress without working together? Right. And I think that's why connection is the most important aspect of mentorship in the Black community.
No, that's absolutely. I'm just sitting here and you're 100% right. You know what I mean? Like you can't do anything in life on your own. You're gonna need some assistance, and mentorship is the best form of assistance there is. Now, you just mentioned NSBE, which is the National Society of Black Engineers, which, as you mentioned, has a middle school and a high school division, for lack of a better term. What is NSBE, and what benefits does NSBE provide to you?
NSBE is my bad. NSBE is an international now program based off of increasing the number of culturally responsible Black Black STEM majors and engineers. And what NSBE does for me at a collegiate level is we have a club on campus, and of which I'm the treasurer of. Last year I was the senator as well. It's been an amazing experience. And what we do at NSBE is we kind of do similar to what STEM for the Streets does, right? We get exposed to students in our general body who want opportunities, who want to get somewhere. But we as NSBE have the connections to get them somewhere. For example, just last night we had our Company Connections Career Fair, where we use our corporate partners that we know that love diversity, that want to get to know more students of color. And we were the middleman between these corporations who want the students and the students who want jobs from corporations. Right. Kill two birds with one stone. NSBE is the connector. NSBE also is an opportunity where you can get scholarships and join a community of students who are excelling. Right. I think there's a certain value to having success around you. and NSBE surrounds you with success. So that's what NSBE does at a collegiate level. The high school and middle school levels, I know they have lots of STEM competitions. The national convention typically happens. It'll be virtual this upcoming year, unfortunately, due to COVID-19. But there is where you would have every STEM company you can imagine usually goes to the NSBE convention. There's research competitions. There's programs for younger students, older students, adults, professionals, post-professionals, retiring. Like, it really is the community of Black people within STEM. And it's not even just STEM. There's business majors, bio majors, all sorts of arts, and NSBE is just Black excellence.
Yeah.
And that's enough said.
Like you're saying, I mean, you have a community of just that amount of people that look like you and talk like you and have a similar background from you. There's only one place to go with that, and that's just up.
Right.
On a more personal note now, for those of you that don't know, Kevin and I went to the same high school, went to School Without Walls, home of probably the oddest mascot in all of DCPS. We were the Penguins. I was the youngest. My birthday's in May. Kevin is the second youngest.
How old are you, Marcus?
I'm 17 now. His birthday is your birthday's in September, is it?
Yes, September 4th.
His birthday's in September. So Kevin was the second youngest. I was the youngest. My experiences being the youngest were vastly different from everyone else's. So I just want to ask Kevin, on a personal note, so Mayor Bowser came to our graduation. She did graduation speech. She mentioned you. She made you stand up in front of all the people. For you, what was your high school like? What was your experience like being the second youngest? And what was your reaction when you found out that you weren't the youngest, you were the second youngest?
Well, first off, finding out that Marcus was younger than me was a big weight off of my shoulders. Everybody, whenever you do something remotely, not even really stupid, but just you do a little, anytime you show any level of immaturity, it's because he's young.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like facts. Like I am younger than you, but being the youngest also is an advantage because people pay attention to young people.
Absolutely.
And they do that. Oh, excuse me. So sorry about that. But they pay attention to, think about how society focuses on kids and how we protect kids. We nurture kids. We bring kids up because they're our future. As you get older, you now join the responsibility of looking back onto the younger group. So being younger allowed me to have more eyes on me, which means more opportunities to connect. It also made, whenever I accomplish something, people say, "Oh, you did this at this age." Like that was probably a good thing. That was a great thing to have in high school as well. But also being the youngest means you must constantly be in the mindset of, how can I be more mature? How can I get better at doing X, Y, Z? And it's like
just more difficult than any test or anything.
Yes, there's nothing you can do. Because when somebody says, "Yo, act more mature," what is acting more mature? Acting more mature is there's nothing. Yeah. There's nothing quantitative. There's nothing concrete about acting mature. It's a completely abstract and social thing. And thinking about maturity 24/7 probably was one of the harder things to do in high school. But if you have
trying to explain to other people that you're not immature, you're just 2 years younger than everyone else is also just as difficult. Yeah,
I would definitely agree with that. But other than that, I definitely think that being the youngest wasn't a bad thing. Would I do it again? Yes, absolutely. I would definitely be the youngest again. I would. It's just all that I know, all that I've been, up until I met Marcus, of course. And,
I've been the youngest all my life. There's no I've been the youngest. I was 7 in 4th grade. That was when I was.
Sheesh.
That was when I was
I
done.
remember when I was 8 in 4th grade. Remember when we started high school at like 12 and 13?
I have videos and I'm not going to share it, but not over the airways of this episode. I'll send them to you though. I have videos looking back when I was a freshman. I was bald. My voice was like 15 octaves higher.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. 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 I
I
remember
was
that.
like 15 octaves higher. Being the youngest is difficult for all the things that Kevin highlights, especially when you're in high school, you know, because you've already got like the regular issues with high school, like you already got college and like just trying to fit into high school in general. Being the youngest is just another like 50-pound weight on top of all the other weights you got to carry. Cause it's like, now it's like, if you laugh too hard, you know what I mean? Or you make the wrong joke, they look at you like you're crazy. So
I actually have a little analogy about how it felt being the youngest. So I participated in the MITES program at MIT, and that was an amazing opportunity where minority students are selected to go and participate in-person classes and being on campus at MIT for about 6 weeks and over the summer between your junior and senior year. It's an amazing program. I encourage all students of color who are interested in STEM to apply. It is a virtual option called MosTech. It's been around for a while, so they've already done a good job at making it better. Definitely apply. But at the MITES program, I was the youngest.
yeah.
And when you tell people you're the youngest, it's like, at least back then, how it felt was that it's like all of a sudden you had a veil over their eyes of what you were, because now I've done this, I've done that, I've done this and the third. Like, these are my accomplishments. This is what I'm into. This is who I am. This is Kevin. But now, like, when I would tell people, oh, by the way, I'm 15, be like, oh, you're 15?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 about how, like, that's why you do this, that's why you do that. Like, why can't I just be me and not be my age?
Yep.
Like, that's at least how it felt for me.
Absolutely.
But
100%.
that's then you go to college and you tell people you're young and they're like, get out the party, kid. and then that's the only challenge in college. But in high school, that's really how it felt.
I mean, yeah, you can have all the accomplishments in the world. I think for me personally, I wasn't as involved in like all the things that Kevin was involved in terms of outside of school. Just because all the things I was interested in, it was really difficult to get into at my age, you know. When I picked up this sports thing, I mean, when you look at different sports programs, most of them in our area, you had to be like in college pursuing a degree. So it was very hard for me to get into my field of study because there's not a lot of programs for it. But when you just have conversations with like teachers or like people that like don't know you and you're like talking and then like, oh yeah, and then they ask you. For me, like when you ask how old I am, I almost don't want to tell. Like
Right, exactly.
Because it's like, now you're gonna look at me like I'm really like,
yes,
right?
exactly.
Like I would rather you look at me like I'm crazy than you look at me like I'm just weird, you know? Because at least when you think I'm crazy, it's like you think I'm normal. I just have a few screws loose. But when you get to that point where you're finally like, oh yeah, by the way, I'm 2 years younger than you and I'm where you're at. It's a weird thing where for me, in my experiences with certain people, it wasn't so much of a wow, that's cool. It was almost so much of a wow, like now I have like this strong disdain for you because you're where I'm at and you're younger than me. Like that was just my experience. I don't know how I got that. I don't know why that was always my experience. Like I can tell you there were like a few times I was talking to people and I'm telling them and they're like, oh, and now like for the rest of their time, they're just like, I'm like getting all this heat, all this hate. And I'm like, I didn't do anything, you know? So, I mean, yeah, being the youngest was definitely not fun. I will tell you this, being the youngest in our graduating class, okay, so I was 12 in freshman year. I was younger than everyone in my class. I was younger than everyone in the class.
That was the thing that would mess me up. I'm in college and there are
That was the
incoming
craziest
freshmen
part.
older than me.
The only I was younger for 2 years. I was older than one person, and I'm not gonna say her name. I'm not gonna say her name, but she was in class of 2020. She was younger than me because she came in and I think she was like 12 too, or something like that. So for 2 years, I was basically the youngest person, not just in my class, but in the school, which is a completely different dynamic.
Yeah.
And like you're a sophomore, you got freshmen that are older than you. That's the part that really freaked me out.
Yeah. It just felt a little different, not gonna lie.
Yeah, for sure. Nonetheless, though, I do want to thank you, Kevin, for coming on the show. Take some time out of your very busy schedule to talk to me. Thank you for obviously talking to us about STEM for the Streets, NSBE, and all the interesting, cool things you're about. 100%, everything you talk about, mentorship, connection, I agree with you 100%. I think it's really important, not just in general, but especially in our community with everything that we have going on in our community. I think you're 100% right. All the links to all the websites and social information, to everything he mentioned, STEM for the Streets, NSBE, Elite Foundation,
LearnServe.
and LearnServe, all of those things will be included in the link in the description below this video so that you can check it out on your own. Again, I want to thank you, Kevin, for joining us today. I also want to thank the viewers, obviously, for taking time out of your days to watch this video. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, click on the notification bell, leave a comment, share it with all your family and friends, and don't forget to join us on our next edition of the Go Talk podcast. And as I always say, you guys enjoy the rest of your lives. Thank you.
Signing off.